Boeing, you know the name. It's a symbol of American industrial power. But right now, this aerospace giant is at a serious crossroads. It's facing a perfect storm of problems, both inside its factories and from threats around the world. We're talking about a high-stakes drama with billions on the line, and it has created the ultimate battleground for investors, bull versus bear. Today, we're going to break down both sides of this incredible story. And let's be real, the company has been taking a beating. I mean, from the constant scrutiny from the FAA and the NTSB to a whole series of very public production problems, the last few years have just been brutal. So the question on everyone's mind isn't just, can they recover? It's how. And this is where the story gets really interesting. Just when things were looking their absolute darkest, Boeing goes and lands a contract that could be worth hundreds of billions of dollars. We're talking about the next-generation F-47 fighter jet. So let's dive into why this one single program could be the thing that turns this entire company around. Okay, so the optimists out there, the bulls, they see this F-47 contract as way more than just another order. For them, it's a fundamental shift, maybe even a new dawn for the company. And it all starts when you look at the fine print of the deal itself. Now, what you're seeing here might look a little dry, but this is absolutely critical. For years, Boeing has been losing billions, on these fixed-price defense deals like the KC-46 tanker. When costs went up, Boeing had to eat it all. But this F-47 contract, it's cost-plus. That means the risk shifts away from Boeing. They finally get to make a profit on their work. For the bulls, this is a massive strategic move back toward making money. So the bull case really comes down to these 5 key things. First, you've got the huge F-47 contract as the main event. Then, and this is so important, you have that financial engine switching to these profitable cost-plus deals. But there's more. The bulls argue Boeing is a strategic national asset. Basically, it's too important for the U.S. to let it fail. They also have a massive backlog of commercial orders, and finally, there's always the potential for even more defense wins coming down the pike. And speaking of that backlog, just look at this number. 163. That's how many net new aircraft orders Boeing got in March of 2025 alone. You know, despite all the negative headlines, this shows there's still a powerful ongoing demand for their commercial jets. That's a core strength you just can't ignore. This comment from somebody online really captures that third point perfectly. National importance. It gets right to the feeling that the U.S. government really can't afford to let its #1 big aircraft maker go under. I mean, it's a core part of the nation's industrial and defense backbone. So the bull case really paints this picture of a company with a game-changing new program, a much smarter financial strategy, a huge backlog, and, the unspoken backing of a superpower. It's a pretty compelling story of a giant waking up. But can a company really change its spots? Because, of course, for every bull, there is a bear. And the bears are super skeptical that one new contract can fix what they see as a deeply broken culture when it comes to just getting things done. This comment right here cuts straight to the heart of the bear case. The fear isn't about Boeing's ability to win contracts. It's about whether they can actually deliver on them. I mean, winning is great, but like another commenter said, Boeing still has to execute the program correctly to actually make any money from it. And that skepticism? Well, it's based on a pretty painful recent history. The KC-46 tanker program has been a mess. The T-7 trainer is hit with delays. The new Air Force One program is behind schedule. And all of this is happening with regulators breathing down their necks. So the bears look at this timeline and they just ask a simple question. Why would the F-47 be any different? And this brings us to a huge point. The timeline is incredibly ambitious. Boeing has promised to get this thing done on an unbelievably aggressive schedule. One analyst called it a rush by any standard, which just creates this huge potential for things to go wrong. And get this, they haven't even picked a final engine for the jet yet. To the bears, that sounds like a recipe for disaster. The bears also argue that, hey, even if Boeing could magically fix all its internal issues overnight, it might not even matter. Because the biggest threats aren't mismanagement or delays. They're a part of this massive storm that's brewing on the global stage. This is where the story gets even more complicated. See, Boeing isn't operating in a bubble. It is right at the center of a geopolitical and economic storm that is threatening its entire business model. This quote from analyst Scott Hamilton just captures the mood perfectly. The storm clouds are already here, and the big question is just when and where the lightning is going to strike. It's a situation that is defined by extreme uncertainty. And this chart just shows you how all these risks are tied together. You've got a global trade war, kicked off by tariffs, that's wrecking supply chains. That disruption, mixed with all the geopolitical instability, is fueling fears of a global recession, which would absolutely crush demand for new airplanes. And all of this creates the perfect opening for Boeing's competition.
Let's zoom in on that supply chain for a second, because this isn't just a theory. A key supplier, Hamid Aerospace, declared force majeure. That's a legal move to get out of contracts because things are so unpredictable. Then you have China halting exports of critical minerals and rare earth magnets that are essential for making planes. And think about this. With over 2,100 planes to deliver outside the US, Boeing is incredibly vulnerable to other countries hitting back with their own tariffs.
And this brings us to the new competition, which is really dominated by China's COMAC. Yeah, Boeing has its history and a big backlog, but COMAC is backed by the entire Chinese government. It can play the long game without worrying about quarterly profits. It's immune to US tariffs, and it is aggressively moving into markets that are trying to get away from being so dependent on the US.
So that brings us to the final verdict. What you have here are two incredibly powerful opposing forces pushing and pulling on this one iconic company, and it's creating a truly uncertain future.
Let's just put them right next to each other. The Bulls see a classic turnaround story. It's driven by a game-changing defense contract and a return to making money, all held up by its status as a national champion. The Bears, they see a company with a broken culture, lost in a geopolitical hurricane, with a fragile supply chain and a powerful new competitor that is gaining on them every single day. So what is it? Is Boeing a deeply undervalued company that's on the verge of a historic comeback? Or is it a classic value trap, where the stock looks cheap for a reason, and it's just masking fundamental problems that could pull it down even further? There are really compelling arguments on both sides, and honestly, that's where we want to hear from you. After seeing all the evidence, which side are you on? Are you a bull or are you a bear on Boeing? Drop a comment below and let us know. We really want to read your take. And that is our breakdown of the epic bull versus bear battle over Boeing. If you enjoyed this analysis, please make sure you subscribe to The Bull versus the Bear, give this one a like, and then go check out our other stock deep dives. Thanks for watching.